What's up, Honors World Literature? It's Friday, Friday edition. I think we're at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Day 12 of quarantine, and I'm sure you've seen the news. It's going to be many more days ahead of us. Probably going to be doing the rest of this book together, I guess. I just want to talk to you about a couple of things. First of all, I hope you guys enjoyed chapter 15. A couple of things you need to note about chapter 15. First of all, like I said yesterday, it starts out in April 1978. So this puts Mariam at 19. At 19 years old, a couple of important things have happened. Let's start with what we left off with yesterday. First of all, this makes it seven miscarriages for Mariam. I know it says 6 here, but 6 more times after that initial miscarriage that she had in the previous chapter, or in chapter 13. And that's important because you wonder why and how, well, you probably don't wonder. You wonder how Rasheed has turned from tolerable husband to abusive verbally, and at the end of chapter 15, physically abusive husband. That's why. He wanted his son. Now we know why he was being nice to Mariam at all. I want my son. And not only has she not been able to provide a son, she hasn't been able to provide any baby. So you have a 19-year-old Mariam, okay, whose mother hanged herself, whose father basically disowned her from cowardice and his bending to his 3 wives, to being shipped across the country after having to marry a guy in his 40s who smokes and is gross. And then on top of that, 7 miscarriages. One is too many. One is too many for anybody to have to endure, and it's something very, very painful for Mariam to have to go through, and she has to go through it 6 more times over a 5-year period. I'm sorry, 4-year period. So there's some significance in that. Secondly, let's talk about the fact that Daoud Khan is assassinated here in 1978, and Daoud Khan, the communist puppet regime is over with. Well, all that really means is now the Soviets are going to show up in Afghanistan lock, stock, and barrel. You have communist takeover in Afghanistan here, and that leads us to where we find ourselves in chapter 16, in case you're curious. Fascinating, just really rich, fascinating history in Afghanistan. I mean, really, from the point with the Shah being overthrown in 1973 all the way up till basically the fall of the Taliban, which is kind of the story arc of this book. Fascinating history. If you guys ever want to read up on that independently, and I can provide any answers or anything like that you guys have. Last thing I want to talk about with chapter 15, Rasheed. We see him become physically, probably not the first time, but for us, the first time we see Rasheed become physically violent with Mariam. Your cooking is so bad, Mariam, that I'm going to make you eat these rocks. He puts rocks in Mariam's mouth and makes her chew them, and she's spitting out blood and pieces of her teeth. 2 broken molars, it says. And so think about everything that Mariam has had to put up with up to this point. And then wrap your mind around that. And man, Mariam is, like I've said, I probably have said it every day, Mariam is my hero in this book. And part of it is, my heart kind of goes out to her that she has to deal with all this. Yes, I know it's a fictional story. Yes, but keep in mind, Khalid Hosseini, the author, he's from Afghanistan. And a lot of this is based off of accurate portrayals of husbands and wives during this time. So a very well-researched book. So did this really happen? Maybe. Something like this might have happened. We find ourselves in the biggest jump we've had so far at chapter 16, Kabul. Spring 1987. If you're familiar with your history, you know this is about 2 years left, 2 years and some change left of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union's on the ropes here a decade later. And all of a sudden, 9-year-old Laila, who is this? It's an entirely different and new character. Yes, she's Fariba's daughter, the very same Fariba that we met in section 1. And really interesting chapter. Fariba is suffering from depression here, Laila's mother. Her father, Hakim, is a teacher, although he's not a teacher anymore. He works in a bread factory because the communists are not going to let an old Afghani from the old era teach any children, as you saw from Laila's education. She has quite a different teacher here. Mammy is Fariba, just to make sure we're clear on that. And man, here we go again. We got another little girl, 9 years old, Laila, who is dealing with some battles of her own. I like Laila's narrative because we are introduced to the character Tariq. Tariq is awesome, her little boyfriend. And he is an amputee. He's missing a leg, but he has his little prosthetic, and he's really great. Laila gets shot with a water gun here at some point. You'll see what that's all about. Sorry, I guess I kind of spoiled that for you. Sorry. Don't worry. Laila turned around and was greeted by the barrel of a gun. Don't worry, it's a water gun. But it's not water. So keep that in mind. Last thing I want to talk to you about I went ahead and put 17, 18, 19 questions on the blog. 17, 18, 19 questions just for those of you that are like, come on, coach, give me the next questions. I want to work ahead. Some of you are reading ahead. Bianca, I know we talked about that a little bit on Remind yesterday. And I know that she's not the only one. Some of you have been really good about already getting your questions for 13 through 16 out of the way. So for those of you who want to work ahead, 17, 18, 19, because over the next week, we're trying to get through the end of part 2. Part 2 is Laila's narrative. And if you're a Mariam fan like me, you're probably wondering, what the heck? I don't know who this kid is. 9-year-old Laila, 1987. Don't worry. We're just pressing pause on Mariam's narrative. She comes back in a big way. And that's all I'll say about that for now. That's it. I just wanted to talk to you guys about those 2 chapters and want to give you the heads up that those questions are posted. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Man, if you haven't gotten into this yet, please do. Set some time aside this weekend. Start with chapter 1, and if you haven't already. If you haven't already, really, shame on you. But even now, you could jump into this. It's a quick read. All of that I just mentioned is 116 pages, and he writes, these pages aren't filled top to bottom, with tiny text. They're very easy. Some of these chapters are also very short. So it's an easy read. It's my favorite book that I teach, in case you couldn't tell. That's all I have for you, man. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Let me know your thoughts. As always, I'll talk to you on Monday. Be safe. Bye.